Hey guys, welcome to the latest episode of Beyond the Tape, a podcast where we chat to people doing rad things in the mountain bike industry within Australia and sometimes overseas. Before we jump on this episode, let me go through some sponsors. First up, we've got Trek. Trek have a new bike releasing tomorrow. Well, the 13th of July. It's pretty sick. I'm not going to say a whole bunch about it, but you're going to see something cool on Insta within the next day or two. So keep your eyes peeled because they've got something that's game-changing. Talk about 100%. Just got the new 100% Aircraft 2 helmet. Super light, super breathable, super comfy. So I'm stoked to have those guys on board, keeping my head protected because we all know there's not too many brain seals left in there and I need to keep them going well. NS Dynamics have been Australia's premier suspension service company for over 25 years. I just sent my forks off to them to get tuned up. There's no one else I would rather have tuning up my suspension. It runs better than new. There's nothing I would need to do when it gets back, and man, it's super plush. So I can't wait to get them back. Lead Out Sports just released that they are doing Unite components. Unite are out of the UK, and they are goddamn beautiful components. Have a look at that chainring and tell me that you don't want to just hang it up on your wall. So hit them up or get your local shop to hit them up so that they can get the best looking chainrings, cranks, pedals, everything in store. Unite stuff is damn amazing. Franked have just released their waterproof jacket. I got mine in the other day and hot damn, it is good. Super comfy. The liner is super, super silky. So it doesn't feel like you're just wearing that garbage bag. Some big vents in the back. And there's kind of a couple of different material choices throughout. So you don't feel too hot, but you don't feel the wind blowing through either. Dirt Surfer, keep all the mud off your face while keeping your bike looking a little bit pimp. If you want something a bit more custom, something that looks a little bit different, hit up those guys and get one of the 100% recycled, 100% recyclable Australian-made mud guards. Crush. Man, those guys kill it. Keep my bike clean. There's not much I have to say about them. Go get one of their premier bike buckets and keep your bike clean. Fist Handwear, man, I just got a whole bunch of their new gloves and absolutely froth it. So if you want to grip your bars and keep your hands warm, make sure you hit those guys up. Now, you might have thought I missed Tassie Trails. Well, that's because this episode is actually with Brendan and Mark from Tassie Trails, where we chat about what they've been kind of doing, how they got started, bikes, Tasmania, Radelaide. We talk a bunch of shit. It's a really good episode, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed recording it. Make sure you share it around, and as usual, grab a beer, grab a water, grab a wine, and enjoy the episode. Do this thing.
Sounds good.
It is a real hill.
Yeah, exactly. My phone. All right, guys, thanks for coming on. Thanks for joining onto the podcast.
It's great to have you.
Thanks for having us, mate. Thanks for showing us around this morning.
Yeah, it's good to have you here in Adelaide. It's been good. How'd you like it?
Wicked fun.
Super, super fun.
Yeah.
Big difference from home. But yeah, change is good as a holiday. So
Yeah.
Didn't know what to expect and definitely loved the variety.
Mm-hmm.
Good fun, flowy stuff. A few little local trails. Some of the OG stuff, a little bit rowdy. A little bit off camber.
How the blackberries taste?
Yeah, the blackberries are good. They're really tasty. Yeah. It's a good line over that one, isn't it?
you can't say you weren't warned.
Always warned. That's the problem.
It's going to happen to everyone, all right?
Mm. Yeah.
Manifested that one, I think.
Yeah. 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 Object fixation, we call that, when you sort of get an eye for something and then you end up chasing it.
Yeah, you look at the tree you're not supposed to hit,
Yeah.
and then you hit it.
Yeah. Then you hit it. There they were.
Yeah, it's all good.
Yeah.
Hey, broke your fall. You could have been a lot worse.
Nothing with it, Claret.
So, before we go too deep, do you guys want to give a brief introduction as to who you are and what you guys kind of do?
Yeah, cool. So I am Mark.
I'm Brendan.
And we are Tassie Trails. shuttle, tour, transfer, whatever you need. Company in Tassie, mostly focused around all-inclusive packages and tours around the state. Operate statewide. I mean, Derby and Maydena are the jewels in the crown. That's what everyone knows about, and that is where most of our work goes, particularly Derby as well, because it's just a good all-round destination and got a good following. But Tassie's coming online with some pretty cool spots and some nice trails on the way, and a lot of diversity as well. So, we are really positioned to operate statewide, and that's what we focus on. We're just trying to make it easy for people to travel around Tassie.
Yeah.
Have a good time, and sort of less thinking, more riding is our approach. Yeah.
And what's like all-inclusive actually mean for you guys?
All-inclusive is the whole shebang except for your bike. So our most popular packages are sort of 5 and 6 days. A typical one for us is 4 days in Derby, 2 days in Maydena, transit afternoon in the middle. We look after your transfers, shuttles, accommodation, lunches, dinners. Most people bring their own bikes, so we don't do bike hire, but we can do it on request and work with a couple of shops in town for that as well.
Yes.
We just try and take care of everything so that you sort of turn up on the plane at the airport, we meet you there, and then 6 days later we drop you off, and hopefully everything in between's been pretty good fun.
Good times, yeah. So who started the company and where the idea kind of come from?
That's me. So officially started 3.5 years ago.
Yep.
The idea came to fruition a couple of years before that, and it just came from, I had a group of 9 mates fly down from the Sunshine Coast in Queensland, where I'm originally from.
Yep.
This was 4.5-5 years ago. Derby was pretty early days. We did a 4 to 5 day trip in Derby. And I mean, they flew down, they booked their own accommodation. I helped them out with some shuttles and transfers through Vertigo, and we did some other stuff.
Yeah, sick.
It was a really good trip, but it was a bit clunky from an organisation point of view, as in they had to split accommodation. You're sort of going where to go for dinner. You just had to make all these decisions along the way. And sitting around the fire one night having a few beers, and the idea just sort of came to fruition.
Yeah.
Threw it out there, and good feedback. They were excited about it. I was in a good job at the time that I enjoyed, but was looking for something else to do and wanted to start a business. And Derby was like really early days at this point. Like there's some good trails in there. Yeah, it was hard to get a coffee. It was hard to find a decent mechanic. It was very early days. So you couldn't, at that point in time, it was really hard to see how big it was going to get. But from my perspective, we sort of thought, let's have a go at this and roll the dice and start the business. So I kept working, socked away some money for 12 months. Yeah. And then bit the bullet, gave up the full-time job, sort of went all in. It was a tough decision. Like, it was, do you just do this on weekends? Do you still work 3 to 4 days a week? And thankfully my wife is pretty flexible and happy for me to have a go at things every now and then. And I quit the full-time job and just went all in. Yeah. And to be honest, upon reflection, I think if I'd done the full-time job a bit longer or had tried to work part-time, I don't think it would have worked as well. The fact that I went all in was like, you just got to make this work. So you invest a bit in the business and have a go. And 3.5 years later, haven't looked back. But I mean, it's been up and down. We haven't actually done a full season technically. Yeah. So the first season we caught the back end of it. Our first job was actually Australia Day. So we caught the 4 to 5 months after that, and the seasons were a lot shorter back then. Yeah. But then you look since then, COVID shut us down for half of one of those seasons. Shut us down for the second one of those seasons. This season we started a bit late because the Tassie borders were closed until December 15. So we are looking forward to doing a full season. Which all going well will be this year and looking pretty strong. But it's just been good fun. Like, truly, you do pinch yourself every day of the week going, this is what I do for a living. Yeah, it's pretty sick. And it has its good days and bad days, but you drive around in a van talking about mountain bikes with people that are just stoked because they're on holidays in what is sort of their mountain biking mecca. And for a lot of these guys, it might be a once in a lifetime trip they do for their 40th or their 50th. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of other guys, it's just an annual pilgrimage they do with their mates. So you get to know people really well. Like, we've had people down on up to their 4th trip with us. In 3.5 years.
That's pretty rad.
and like to come to Adelaide and catch up with people this morning and yesterday that had did a trip with me 12 months ago, and you just have good relationships, and it's great.
It builds. Yeah, that's cool. And how did you kind of join the business along the way?
I've only come on fairly recently. We've been working together for over 12 months. Yeah. And I've dived in now as we're looking to expand out. Yeah. We're starting to kind of offer coaching and guiding as part of the package as well. We've got a lot of really good responses and feedback from people who not only want to get dropped off at the top of the hill and kind of go, these trails are wicked down here, go and have a crack at that, but actually, get shown in, get a toe in, get that kind of, that really on-trail experience as well. So I'll not only be helping out with that, but I've got a background in coaching and guiding, so I'm going to hopefully bring a bit more of that into the business and make that an option.
And so what's your background in coaching and trail guidance and stuff?
I started out coaching, kind of doing everything from basic school programs, just really basic, simple stuff, outdoor education programs, and then have moved through. I was the mountain bike coordinator for a private school in Sydney. Yep. Was running there. They did a 6-month coaching program, and ever since I've been in Derby, working for a few different companies, guiding and coaching. So it's now it's the option to come in with Mark and build the business even further and start to just offer, just expand the offering a little bit more.
Yeah, I think that's pretty rad.
Yeah.
Especially if you've got a family or something coming down for a holiday with you guys, and perhaps the mum or the dad need a bit of extra coaching on the side, and you want to take them guiding and you're more experienced riding, go the other way, then that works, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And even if it's sometimes you just go to a new place like we had today. We could have done all the trails that we rode today, but and we would have been fine. We would have knocked our way down them, but because we had, guys like yourself out there, local guys showing us around, it just makes such a good experience because you just dive straight into that trail.
Yeah, exactly.
You've got a wheel to follow. You've got somebody who you've got a bit of confidence in, and you're just full speed, full send, first run. You don't get that. And if you do, sometimes you end up in the meat wagon, which is not where you want to end up. So
exactly.
We want to offer that to people. That real local experience. We want to offer that to people when they show up, so they can be pinning from day one and just enjoying all the good trails.
Yeah, unfortunately, you were following my lines though, so just getting rowdy.
Oh, there's definitely a few butt puckering moments following a few of your lines, but they were flipping excellent. It was the best.
The tyre destroys.
Yeah, it did cost me a tyre. But to be fair, that was on the main line. That was the only flat that we had was on the main line. So.
The thing we really noticed in the last couple of years in Tassie is there's this huge market for people that have got 4 days or long weekends. They just want to come down and they do not want to make a single decision. So they don't even want to think about what trail I ride. They just want to go, hey, I love some flow. I love a little bit of single back tech. What do I go and do? Where do I go? And the fact you can just jump on someone's wheel and just go and ride those trails without thinking about it. So you're not pulling out a phone, you're not pulling up trail forks. You get a bit of briefing on the trail map, but that's about it. Yeah. You just jump on someone's wheel. And it just, the stoke factor for those 4 days is just off the charts, and they jump on a plane and they go home back and go to the real world.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, if you look at Derby and Maydena, there's millions of different trail combinations, right? You can't know all of them.
Yeah.
And some of them are terrible and some of them are amazing. So if you're there for 4 days, you just want to ride the amazing stuff. So.
Yeah, absolutely. And the right stuff.
Yeah.
Some people don't love open, flowy trails. So we'll just dodge them. You don't get that information from a trail map. So we'll just go, well, what sort of trails do you want to ride? What sort of things do you want to do? And we'll take people to the right places, make sure they end up in the right trails, and, be able to say, well, this trail's hard. It's all at your limit, but there's one dicey feature in it that might mess you up. Yeah. So we'll just stop there. We'll go flat out until we get to there. We'll stop at that. We'll have a look at it. If you're happy, sick, send it. If not, well, you haven't dived into that accidentally and
just axe yourself.
Done yourself a mischief.
Yeah.
Maydena's a classic example for that because Maydena, like, it has a reputation.
Sadly,
it doesn't necessarily deserve the reputation it's got sometimes because it has a huge diversity of trails and some of the best riding in the country. But because of its reputation, you get really competent single black riders edging into double blacks that will spend their first day at Maydena on the greens and then touch into the blues, and they've wasted a day.
Yeah.
Whereas if they can jump on our wheel for the first 4 hours, we take them down some blues, get into the single blacks, start to get a bit darker. Their confidence level goes through the roof, and you know the network well enough. It can be a maze. You just drop down that hill, and it's like, where am I? Where do I go?
Yeah.
So 3 or 4 runs down with us, you know the hill pretty damn well, and then you get so much more out of that next 2 days of riding. Yeah. So it really just allows you to make the most of the time you've got while you're there.
It's funny, like Maydena's got that reputation because I think there's the best trails built. As soon as you hit that first feature, you know exactly what the rest of the trail is going to be like.
100%.
Yeah. You're never surprised by anything.
Yeah. It's got filters.
It does. Yeah. Yeah. Some very, very serious filters in some spots. So,
there's a couple in there. It's got a bit of vert too.
Sorry?
It's got a bit of vert too.
I've heard a rumour. Yeah. Almost as much as Adelaide.
Almost.
Yeah.
Combined.
Every one of our trail networks. You guys haven't always lived in Tasmania. Where did you kind of get started and how did you get onto bikes, I guess?
Oh, no, we're not Tasmanian.
No, you've caught us there.
Yeah.
We're both from the Big Island.
Yeah. So I'm from Southeast Queensland, Sunshine Coast, originally. Grew up there for 30 odd years, give or take. And loved it. Said I'd always stay there, never move on. And then at some point in time, my wife and I just decided to pack up a camper van and go and do a lap of the country.
Yes.
Set out on sort of 4 to 5 years, travel the country, spent 8 months driving from Sunshine Coast to Melbourne. 3 to 4 months of that was in the high country, Jindabyne, Bright, Beechworth, Myrtleford, all that sort of area. And then got offered an opportunity to work in Tassie, jumped on the boat, came over. Had never been to Tassie before, just thought we'd roll the dice and have a go, and got there and just fell in love with the place. Just a magic part of the world, good lifestyle. I've got 2 young kids. So a great place to raise a family and just a nice place to be. Mountain biking for myself. I sort of fell into it through adventure racing. So back in Southeast Queensland, adventure racing was a pretty big scene. Going back 15 years ago. Yeah, right. So sort of off-road tri stuff. I was a decent ski paddler, a pretty good runner. Thought I'd have a go at adventure racing and just started to realise how much fun mountain biking is.
It's pretty
started
good.
Paddling less, started running less, started riding more.
And
the rest is history.
Goes. Yeah. Who would have thought?
Exactly.
And how about yourself? How did that?
Yeah, I grew up around Sydney, outskirts of Sydney. Started out in BMX. Like a lot of kids. And then did my first mountain bike trip, which was the old classic Woodford to Glenbrook, which is up in the Blue Mountains. You'd catch the train up and then ride down. And then you can kind of catch up, pedal back up to a slightly lower train station and catch the train back up again. Brilliant. We used to do that all the time, and eventually just sort of built on that. Did that first on a BMX. That was was an experience, but then got some money together, got a mountain bike, and never looked back. Between riding around there, I lived in Scotland for a few years. I raced the Scottish National Enduro Series over there, which was, man, that's just eye opening. To be going from that sort of riding to what you've got over there, phenomenal. And then during that time, I'd always come down to Tassie on tours. I'd been coming down for a long time, and then just finally bit the bullet after a trip to Derby, and that's it. We're moving. So both my partner and I had the dream jobs in Sydney, and the dream job turned out to perhaps be less than the dream that we had hoped them to be. And we just made a decision one day, and within 11 weeks, we'd gone from painfully employed and, all settled in Sydney to living in Derby, or living just outside of Derby. And living and working and running tours and loving it. Never looked back.
It's pretty hard to go to Tassie and then come back. Like every time we go there and come back, it's just, you get that post-Maydena depression.
Yeah, so true.
It's so hard to come back here. It's an amazing spot. Love Adelaide. But yeah, every time I go to Tassie, I'd live there if it wasn't so cold. That's for sure.
Ironically, most of our friends in Tassie are Queenslanders.
Yeah, right.
That we didn't know in Queensland. But it is just amazing how many people from the mainland have moved down there in the last 4, 5, 6, 10 years. I don't know what it is, but yeah, it's on everyone's radar now. So pretty special part of the world.
Why do you think that is? Do you know?
I think everyone's sort of craving that bit of a more relaxed, natural lifestyle. Tassie ticks a lot of those boxes. And I think, like, I'd never been there before, but I get the impression Tassie at one point in time was hard to get to and hard to get out of, as in it was just quite inaccessible. But now we've got direct flights to every capital city except for Darwin and Canberra.
Yeah.
The boat's great. You jump on the boat, you sleep overnight, you drive off the boat at 6 a.m. It just doesn't get any easier than that. You jump on a plane, hour and a half from Adelaide to Launceston. Good value flights. You fly to Brisbane, Sydney, Melbourne. It's just great. Easy to get in and out of, which is also a good thing living there as well. Like most of our family's on the mainland.
Yeah.
We fly back to Queensland 3 times a year.
Yeah, right.
The flights are cheap. The flights are easy. It's just easy to come and go. And I think because of that accessibility now, it makes it a lot easier to live there, work there. It's amazing how many people that live in Launceston in particular that work in Sydney or Melbourne, they'll fly over, do 2 days, and then fly back and work from home for the rest of the week.
Yeah.
Yeah, just because they can.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're not commuting in and out of cities all the time. And
100%.
Yeah.
I even worked. I've done a day of work in the Maydena beer garden before just because it was just as easy for me to go down there. I think it's 5 hours total, maybe a little bit more for me to get from my house to Maydena. It's not that far.
Yeah.
Really, and you just go down there, have a sick weekend and come back. And
That's
it. It's tiring, but it's pretty easy.
It's a big weekend, but just what you get out of that weekend is amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Maydena's perfect for that. You can fly into Maydena on a long weekend, punch out 2.5 days of riding. You'll go home, just stoke levels are high. You're a little bit cactus. You're a bit worn out. You jump on a plane, you shoot home, and it's done.
Yeah.
It's
so sick.
Yeah.
So you mentioned why did you go to Scotland? Out of everywhere, like Tasmania and then Scotland, I'm thinking you might like the cold and wet weather.
Oh, I definitely don't do well in the heat.
Yeah.
Okay. I survived the heat, but I wouldn't say I thrived there. So, yeah, Scotland was always on my radar as somewhere that I wanted to go. It's just a really beautiful spot. And, I wanted to do a lot of outdoor work up there. Ended up working as a whitewater raft guide and a bunch of other things over there. And, it was great. It's just an incredible spot to live and, ski to work a lot of the days. We had, if we got a good drop of snow, I could cross-country ski about 8 k's into town and back. So that's super cool.
That's next level.
It was just fun. And like for an Australian boy, it was just a bit of a novelty, really.
Yeah.
And so I just really enjoyed that. Enjoyed the racing over there. Had a really good crew of people that I'd ride with. Middle of winter when it got dark at 3:30 in the afternoon, you just bang a couple of head torches on and away you go. And you'd either go riding or skiing depending on what the snow was like. We'd go ski touring at night.
That's insane.
Same deal. Same as you go for a night ride. We just go for a night ski. Super fun spot. And very fond memories. And then like the National Enduro Series was a really well put together race series that spanned the whole country. Yeah. So you had races way up north. You had races over at Fort William You had races way down in the Scottish borders. And you got to see, it was just a really cool way to see the whole of the country. And, just racing around. And
what was the tracks and terrain and stuff like over there? Is it marshy and muddy and rooty?
Yeah, look, everything from super wet, super boggy, super deep, very delicate riding. And then just some really wild, gnarly, rocky stuff as well. They're not afraid of building some pretty hard stuff. You know? You look at the sort of stuff that they're racing at the EWS in Elithan. Just gone. Hard, tight, wild, super punchy trails. You couldn't want for more. And because they're protected by the freedom to roam, which means that you can legally go anywhere you want. You can walk onto somebody's private property. Which I know, like for us, it blows your mind. You'd get shot for that in Australia, but you're
some
legally,
places, for sure.
Yeah, like you're legally protected over there. So, and it's because a lot of the national parks and things, the land is privately owned. But it's big wealthy families. You can actually legally go anywhere you want onto properties and things like that. You got to have a good reason. But outdoor adventure is considered a good reason. So if you want to walk up that hill, but you need to cross this guy's yard to get there, you go through it and you go up the hill and then come back again.
That's insane. That's so sick.
Super good. But what it means is that there's trails everywhere. And there's just a much better kind of feel about that. There's a really good culture around it. Build good trails. Build them out of the way. Don't be a pain. But you can dig trails just about anywhere. And even in Aviemore, which is kind of the like Jindabyne or Bright kind of town, like that town that services the ski area. From the main street, you just head straight up into the hills. And there's trails up there, and you just blast back down and
that's so
do
good.
3 or 4 laps of an evening, and the pub's right at the bottom, and you just have a beer when you get there.
Perfect.
Unreal.
That's so good.
Rough.
Yeah, hard life. Got to eat the haggis though, right?
I didn't mind the haggis.
Yeah.
Most of the Scots hated it. But I loved it. Yeah.
That's weird. It's like one of those things where the locals just hate that one thing, but it's actually really good.
Bit like Foster's.
Yeah, I've never had Foster's, so I wouldn't know. I don't think I've ever seen it for sale, hey?
Highest selling beer in the UK.
Yeah, right.
Highest selling beer in the UK is Foster's. And as an Australian, you walk into any pub, they realise that you're Australian, and they go to hand you one. And they'll go,
no, we don't drink that there.
Thank you. I will give that a miss.
What's the SA one?
Coopers.
No, what's the one?
West End?
West End, that's the one.
Red Tints.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
It's not SA anymore though. They closed the factory down. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
No way.
Yeah, the Red Tins are gone. Sad times. It's the breakfast of champions. You mentioned on our little trip today, you had the pleasure of riding with someone pretty famous and pretty spectacular when you were over in Scotland.
Yeah, managed to get a few pedals in with Danny McCaskill. He grew up over on the Isle of Skye, but then ended up in Aviemore working in a bike shop over there, and through that he met a friend of mine, and so just over time. First time was we actually met. I had broke the collarbone. He had just come back from Red Bull, had him over the Monaco F1. So he's living the high life over there in Monaco, and he was telling us all these stories about how, he was drinking in a bar where Peronis were 50, I think it was €50 for a Peroni in these bars.
That's ridiculous.
And then we ended up back at my mate's place, and I went to, my mate sort of rolled a bed mat out on the floor for me. Because I certainly wasn't driving home, and Danny McCaskill said, "You're not sleeping on that. You can have the big comfy couch. I'm going to sleep on the floor. I'm like, no, I cannot get the gaming couch onto the floor. Like, that just feels wrong. And he went, no, don't be ridiculous. We've all been there. We've all had the injuries. I'll happily take the floor. And it was a really strange moment. Yeah. But yeah, I just thought, wow, how can a bloke so successful, so everything still be so unbelievably humble? And that was the thing. Like, the riding was something phenomenal, but just how good a human being he actually was the most shocking thing about him.
Yeah. He's just a mountain biker at the end of the day, right?
Yeah.
That's the way most...
Yeah.
He's a trials rider at that.
Yeah, true. Yeah, the best. Did you do much riding and racing overseas at all, Mark?
No, I never raced overseas. I've never been... Mountain biking racing, I did a lot of 100Ks back in southeast Queensland.
You can have that.
Yep. Yeah, I don't do it anymore, thankfully. I like beer a bit too much these days. Yeah. But, I mean, growing up in southeast Queensland, there wasn't a whole lot of gravity. Like, everything was kind of XC, adventure riding trails. So most of my races used to be 50s and 100s, which are really good fun. And went through, like, an absolute, just a banger of a phase where it was a big scene. The races would sell out. Healthy sponsorship was really good. And good trails. Like, there's one in particular, Noosa Enduro. Would have been good things about 95% single track.
Yeah, right.
With a couple of dirt roads and tar link roads, but like genuine mountain biking single track. And then something happened and just all the sponsorship fell out and the whole race scene sort of died, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And it's a bit better up there now. There is some proper gravity up there now, and they've got a good enduro scene, a good downhill scene as well.
Yeah.
But no, overseas, I've not done anywhere near as much travelling overseas as this bloke.
Yeah.
Had the lucky fortune of riding Fort William when we were there in 2007.
Yeah, sick.
In blisteringly cold, miserable Scottish weather. It was very authentic.
Yeah.
But it was just amazing to just see that course, like something you've been watching on TV, and then see it in the flesh and go, yeah, wow. And the other fun thing I did was rent I don't know if you remember, but I think it was a Cannondale, had a little 50mm front fork, but it was actually in the stem.
Yeah, the
head steel
shot.
Fork went down the head shot.
Yeah.
Rented one of those in Zermatt in Switzerland.
Yeah,
and thought I'd go and find some goat track. This thing was not built for this goat track. Needless to say, it probably didn't end the day in one piece, and I dropped it back at the shop. But yeah, that was a pretty cool experience.
They retired that bike that day, dug in a grave and put it in the ground.
Yeah, but, it was good. Like, I did 3 months in Europe backpacking with my now wife, and
cool.
We had absolute ball and just rented a bike a couple of times and sort of got to see the fun stuff, but.
Yeah, you got to do it. Like, anyone listening, you have to go and explore Europe. It's so good over there.
It's just a rite of passage for Australians, isn't it?
I think so.
You got to do it.
That or Canada, it seems like everyone.
Yeah, that's
Canada.
next on the list.
Yeah, Fort William's definitely on my bucket list. Like, that's the one race that I want to go to. I don't care about any others. Like, that's the one for sure.
Yeah.
Is it as good as what they say it is for that race? Like the atmosphere and everything?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You cannot put enough superlatives on the way that on that as an experience. Yeah. The wind is colder than you can describe. The midges bite harder than you can put into words. And then the crowd at the bottom, the noise. It's just this huge, huge vibe. Even the vibe in the town, because the racetrack's slightly out of town, but you get this big vibe in town, and it's just the whole place just cracks.
Yeah,
they just bring people just come from all over the country. It's just enormous. It is enormous. It's a proper festival, and
that's so sick.
It's super, super cool.
Yeah, it's kind of like here in the tour. Like when the tour down under comes here, it's just it's hectic.
Yeah,
the whole place lights up. It's such a good thing.
Yeah, and the cool part is you can actually go and ride the track.
Yeah, right.
It's not like a lot of places where they keep it shut all the time. You can just go out and ride it. And a lot of the times when you race, like even enduro races that I've done, used not the whole track, but certainly sections of it. And, you drop in for the first time, kind of, we did one section where we dropped in to the road gap and then down through those really super iconic deep berms down and around and up past the wall ride. It was a Silver Line wall ride back then.
Yeah.
You kind of jump past that and just go, oh, this is it. I'm really
I'm a World Cup racer.
Oh, yeah.
The day I was there was not a soul there. Like, it was just so miserable and so quiet. It was the wrong time of year.
Yeah.
But it was just so strange to think about, like, all that footage you see of just thousands of people there. And it's kind of a long way from anywhere, isn't it? Like, it's not super easy to get there.
Yeah.
I'd love to see it in its prime. Yeah, it'd be pretty special.
I just want to see, like, go up to that last jump of the motorway and just look over the crowd is next level. That's all I want to do. Then go home a happy man. Were you guys around in Tassie when the EWS went down there?
Oh, certainly were.
Yeah, I wasn't. I missed that one, unfortunately. But
yeah, I was there for 17 as well, but I was unfortunately stuck in a job in my previous life and had to work that weekend. But I was there for 19, and it was absolutely amazing. Like, little old Derby, which, you know, when I moved to Tassie, had a population of about 80 or 90 people, and that was about it.
Yeah.
There's trickling of mountain bikers coming through. And now there's a few great locals left in town, but certainly a few have moved out, and there's a lot of Airbnbs, obviously. But just to see this town come alive with what felt like 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people. I don't know how many people were in town that day, but the cars were lined up all the way out of town back towards Branxholme. And I've never seen an event like it, like just the proximity of being able to get so close to the riders, so close to the trail, and just chainsaws, whippersnippers, blowers, hooters, everything. The heckling was like nothing that I've ever seen. And like, I was at Detonate at the start of the morning because I used to do a bit of little photography, so I was sort of sat at the bottom of the chute from pretty early on in the morning. I was probably first, second or third person at the top of the hill that time. An hour and a half later, there's 500 people up there. The whole trail Detonate was lined top to bottom, six people deep, just heckling the riders coming through.
Yeah.
And then you'd shoot over to Sheerpin, catch the rock garden and the shoot on Sheerpin, and that was exactly the same. And then to see Trouty, that was probably the highlight, like the rock slab at Trouty, just watching the riders come down that at the end of the day. Yeah, and there was a couple of thousand people on that hill, no question about it. Yeah. Yeah. And there's probably a couple of thousand people drinking beer about 2 hours later. It was just as much fun.
That was the Enduro Wet Series as well, I reckon. That was the real rainy one.
No, it was 17 was the wet one. 19 was the Bluebird Day.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. I think half of Launceston and Hobart were in Derby that weekend. Yeah. It was just magic.
Everyone migrated. Yeah. Yeah. That's so sick.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
Was it like a big thing to happen at Derby? Like, was it, you could feel something different was happening around there?
Yeah, I think 19 was the turning point. 17 definitely put it on the radar. People were aware of it. It was in the magazines. There was a trickling more international coming in from that. Yep. But 19 put it on the radar. And we started the business. So I think our first year was Australia Day 2019 when we kicked off. Yeah. So EWS was literally 3 months after that, give or take. And we definitely saw a bump in international bookings for that following season. A lot of Canadians, some Frenchies, New Caledonians, believe it or not. I didn't know there was a mountain biking scene in New Caledonia, but apparently there is. Yeah. I think all 10 of them came down and did a trip with us.
Yeah, sick.
It was just amazing to see, like, that was the turning point for Derby, and that's what really put it on the radar. And then obviously the follow-on from that has just been just a roller coaster.
I think, like, up until now, it's only really been Canberra and Cairns that are on the map worldwide for our riding here. Yeah. Whereas now, finally, Tassie's getting a look in, and one day Adelaide might, or even WA. Like, the riding scene in WA is huge. Yeah. It's so underrated.
I think the beauty of it is, like, you look at, so EWS 2022 was supposed to be in Australia, 22 or 21, whatever it was.
Yeah. No, it's
22. 22, the one that got postponed.
That's why they had Enduro Jam.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So, I mean, for little old Tassie to get around at Maydena and then 7 days later get around in Derby, you look at North America, I think, got 2 rounds, and Tasmania got 2 rounds. It's just amazing to think at the bottom of the world in this little state, it's got 560,000 people getting 2 rounds of the EWS. It's pretty special.
I wish they could find the infrastructure to have a World Cup down there.
100%.
Yeah. Like, it makes so much sense just to have one down there at the start of the year before the Euro rounds.
Yeah.
Even there, do cans, go find somewhere else on the way up, and then go to Europe. It makes so much sense.
Yeah.
The money would be phenomenal for teams.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it's a long way for them to come.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you look at, they do a back-to-back, obviously, you know, a Tasmanian round and a New Zealand round in the past, which justifies the distance, but nice to have a couple more rounds on this side of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to go witness it more.
Yeah. I think the fact that, you know, the people like, you know, the organisers of the Enduro World Series, them throwing 2 rounds to Tassie.
Yeah.
I think that really speaks volumes to the organisers, you know, the people that are out there building like these incredible bits of infrastructure in Tasmania. You know, Frenchie down at Maydena, Dorset Council in up at Derby. It's a tip of the hat to them to say, you guys have done something unreal.
Yeah.
You've built something incredible, and we're going to reward that with these 2 events. You know, fingers crossed we get them back. Obviously, they'll postpone for COVID this year. Fingers crossed they have just postponed them.
Yeah.
We get those same 2 rounds next year. But I think it's really just a big pat on the back to Tassie, to the people that have done the right thing, like done something incredible, built some incredible infrastructure, and been rewarded for it with these incredible events.
Yeah.
So, and hopefully it just encourages people to keep doing it.
Yeah.
Other states are lagging.
Yes.
Other states in Australia are lagging. They're lacking that infrastructure. There's huge money to be made in mountain biking. There's huge money in mountain bike tourism. There's huge health benefits. There's economic benefits.
Yeah, it all makes sense.
How can governments not start to build these things? And they're slowly starting to cotton on, slowly. But it's taking too long, and that's why other states aren't seeing the same reward for their efforts like Tassie is.
Yeah, they're not going whole hog.
No.
I think it's crazy. Like, what is it? Derby was an old mine.
It was a tin one. Yeah. So at one point, just in the lead up to the First World War, Derby was supplying 10% of the world's tin.
Yeah, right. That's insane.
The value of tin coming out of Derby eclipsed the value of gold coming out of all of Tasmania. And this is a nothing little town in the northeast, you know, quiet little corner that no one's ever heard of.
Yeah.
There's 1,100 people living there, and they were just dragging out so much tin and making so much money.
Yeah.
For the state, and it did set the state up. It was one of the reasons for setting the state up as well as it did. And I mean, the tin was first found there in 1875. Sort of ran through to the First World War. It was really peaking. It died off. Yeah. Between the First and Second World War.
Came back.
And then right through to, and it kept dying through to the 1970s.
Yeah, right.
They shut the primary school in 1974. And that was the town basically done. Yeah. From there you had, super low land values. So you ended up with a lot of hippies and things moving in. There was a feminist commune in Derby.
Yeah, right. That's insane.
A lot of artists, and it kind of lived that way for about 50 years until the trails moved in. Yeah. And a lot of the houses were super, super cheap. You go back 10 years. Yeah, I know. And have a look at the real estate prices in Derby. You could buy a block.
It's painful.
Yeah. Yeah. You buy a house block for 10 grand.
I'm regretting all life decisions.
Yeah. It wasn't hard to buy a house for $20,000-$30,000.
Yeah.
Could
get a personal loan for it. Yeah. Don't even need a mortgage.
Probably wanted a lick of paint, but and now those places are just absolutely sky high. The crack house sold for $1.31 million. It's a 2,500 square metre block. And it's a, it's 2.5 bedroom, knockdown, dunga little house.
Yeah.
And needs more than a lick of paint.
Does want a bit more than a lick of paint. I am assured that it's going to get that at some point.
Pretty special.
I think it's going to be pretty cool. But yeah, like incredible history in the town. It's one of the things that I love about it. Again, it's one of the benefits of coming to Derby and having somebody show you around.
Yeah.
Because while you're climbing back up stuff, or even while you're on the shuttle bus, you got one of us in your ear going, "Oh, this is really interesting." Cool. Oh, that's what that is. Or most people don't even realise that when they're going up the twisties, that thing that you see in all of the photos. Yeah. That's going up the face of one of the old mines.
Yeah, right. That's so sick.
Yeah.
I think it's cool to see, like, because Maydena was just an old school and an old rundown town. And you got this old rundown tin mine, and we've changed it into this massive economical success.
Yeah.
It's silly for governments not to see that getting done.
100%. Yeah. Yeah. And everyone's trying to replicate it now, and there's some epic destinations on the way in Australia, which is just good for the whole sport. Like, the whole sport is just going to explode over the next 10 to 15 years, like it has for the last 2 years in particular.
Yeah.
But Derby is this classic success story that is really hard to replicate. It is like a little ski village for mountain bikes.
Yeah.
And when there's more kids doing wheelies up and down the main street than there are cars,
that's a good time.
You're in a good spot.
Yeah.
And Maydena is much the same. Like, kudos to Frenchie and the team for what they have created down there, because that has an epic future ahead.
Yeah.
Like we say it a little bit, but I know for me personally, Maydena is my favourite place to go and ride as a rider. It is just unbelievable. I've never seen anywhere else like it in the world. But as an operator, Derby's just such a good place to take people. And that's why it gets the attention that it does, because you can take mum and dad and 3 kids to Derby for 3-4 days and they'll have an absolute ball. Or you can take world-class riders there and they'll do 4, 5, 6 days and have just as good a time as well.
And you got Queenstown and St Helens and stuff and everything growing now as well?
Yeah, St Helens has been pretty well established now for a good couple of years.
Yeah, okay. Yep.
Great network of trails, same trail builders as Derby, so operates really well as a sister network.
Yeah, cool.
And the beauty of St Helens is it's just completely different. Like, it's an hour away in the car, and we can put together a couple of good days over in St Helens. Yeah. But the network itself is completely different. It's a different soil compound, different type of trail, a lot more open. There's fires that have gone through there, so you can see big vistas across the landscape, whereas Derby's really quite dense rainforest, lots of ferns. Just a different network and good in its own right. And then, Queenstown's still building. Like, we spent 3 days in Queenstown about 6 weeks ago doing some recce, which is the first solid chunk we spent over there. We've been there a couple of times now. It's still got a little bit more work to do, but what they've done so far is like nothing else in Australia.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. When you can see Frenchman's Cap, which is this iconic sort of El Capitan Yosemite style mountain in the hills, and you can see the ocean in the same view from the top of Mount Owen.
Yeah, right.
And those two are 60 to 70 kilometres apart.
Yeah, right.
It is just amazing. Like, the vista from the top of that mountain is...
It looks good.
You just don't think you're in Australia. Yeah, it is iconic. And the trails there they're different. Yeah. It's like what we rode today at Fox Creek, where you go from, super fun, flowy orange rip to Paddy's. Yeah. Completely different trails, really good fun. Queenstown is just different, but if you're a good, competent blue to black rider, Queenstown will just push you out of your comfort zone a little bit, but you'll get to the bottom and you'll be really satisfied with yourself. And if you're a little bit greener than that, you can have some great fun on the lower trails. Yeah. But there's one particular trail in Queenstown that is unbelievable. The big double black natural selection, which,
I've heard about it. I've heard it's good.
Yeah. We dropped into it and the fog was coming in, the temperature was plummeting, the rain was coming across the mountain. Like, it was this pretty authentic Tassie experience, and we weren't quite sure what we were getting into, and we'd never done it before, and there was no one else on the mountain this particular day. Yeah. And the weather changes pretty quick on the west coast of Tassie. Yeah. And it was mind-blowing. Yeah. I haven't felt like that for a long time on a mountain bike.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I'll need to get there.
Yeah, there was a lot of adrenaline-fueled shaking hands at the bottom. I can assure you that the beer tasted bloody good that night. I mean, it tastes good most nights, but geez, it tasted good down
that one
night.
That certainly was a bit of a decompress.
But yeah, it's the closest thing that we've got to that big mountain European riding. Obviously, like Maydena's huge, 800 and something meters of vertical. Mount Owen has the same. It's almost the same height.
Yeah.
But I mean, you've ridden Maydena. It's like riding in a rainforest tunnel for a lot of
You
the
don't
time.
even know that you're so high up.
Yeah.
90% of the
You
time.
don't?
Yeah.
No.
Mount Owen, Queenstown, it's like riding on the moon.
Yeah, right.
So again, another mining town, but it got nailed with, because it's copper mine. They use a lot of sulfur. The sulfur gets into the air and then creates acid rain. So there's actually, it's completely devegetated.
Yeah, right.
The footy oval in Queenstown is gravel.
The best.
It's gravel. The best. And it alone is worth going to see.
Yeah.
But they just can't get grass to grow on it even now. So that it's still gravel. And so when you get to the top, you can see every inch of the trail all the way down.
That's crazy.
You get a real sense of how epic and vast the whole place is.
Yeah, right.
You find yourself getting distracted. Like you'll be on this primo bit of single track, rocking along, and then you just stop and you look around and you just get stuck in this look because the view just keeps on going.
That's insane.
Because there's not a single tree up there.
Yeah.
And then when an 80 knot gust of wind comes through, and you've got to throw your bike into the wind to get it around that corner, you're like, this is mountain biking.
Yeah.
Like,
That's so sick.
it is unbelievable. And it's just a wicked little town too. Like it's Queenstown, hasn't got a great reputation, has its ups and downs over the last 60, 70 years, but it's a really iconic little town with a bit of culture, good artwork. You can get a good coffee there now. There's some good meals.
Good. Yeah.
Yeah, it's really coming of age.
I think I've said this a few times, but like when you are riding in Tassie, it pays so much just to stop and have a look around on a trail every now and then. Like there's nowhere here that has 6 meter wide, 200-year-old trees, like just chilling next to the trail.
Yeah.
It's such a big thing to do when you're over there.
Yeah, and it's just got this rawness to it that most of Australia, not lost, but it is just an extreme example down there.
Yeah.
You've got proper peaky mountains.
Yeah.
Which Australia doesn't have many of compared to.
Well, we've got hills
Europe
here.
and Rockies. Yeah.
What do you think of? So you've ridden a few trails here. How do they kind of compare to what you used to riding down there? Is it completely different, or
They're a little bit shorter.
Yeah, well, we make do with what we've got.
No, they're good fun, man. Like they're actually, we didn't know what to expect. I've been to Adelaide for work a few times, but it's always been in and out. I've never had a chance to explore. But it's a beautiful city, heaps to do. And the trails, like Fox Creek has definitely been in the media quite a bit of late. And we didn't know if it was just going to be a whole bunch of flow lines because that's what you see pictures of these days. And it was great to have some locals to show us some of the rowdier stuff and some of the loose stuff and the tight little off-camber tracks. Like it's got everything. It was wicked fun. And the beauty of it was, you know, what is it, a 4 or 5 minute shuttle up in the van? It felt pretty quick.
Yeah, it is.
And then you shoot back down, you do it again. We spent half a day at Kersbrook yesterday, and that was about a 90-second shuttle up the hill.
Yeah.
It
if
is
you're going
so
slow.
quick.
Yeah.
And then you shoot down the hill, you jump in the van. Like we did 3 hours in Kersbrook yesterday, 10, 12 runs. I don't know how many we did.
Yeah.
It's just great. Like we are definitely used to Derby's a 15-minute shuttle. Yeah. And I mean, you can do where you're going in 5 minutes if you give it a good nudge, but most of the runs in Derby are 20 to 30 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Some 40 to 50, hour 15 for the longer stuff. Maydena, if you can get down Maydena in less than 15 minutes, you're definitely moving at a pretty good clip.
That's pretty fast.
Most of the time, it's 25 to 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Catch your breath at midline, catch your breath at Abbott's.
Yeah.
And then hold on for that last bit.
I've never done a full run like without resting.
Oh, it's an experience.
It's hard work.
Yeah. I don't want to. I do want to. I haven't done a summit in the morning either, which is something I want to do. Like pedal up to the top.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's another thing I want to do.
Yeah. So we are used to those half-hour runs.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really cool to go somewhere. The gain is, 5 minutes up,
just punch
5
out.
minutes down, punch out a bunch of runs, good diversity of trails. We've had an absolute blast. Like it's been so much fun.
That's sick.
I think you'll find us over here probably about this time every winter.
Yeah.
Just for a week.
Nice and warm.
Yeah, warm's a strong word.
Oh, it's been freezing. So what else is in the plan for Taylor Trails? You mentioned like the coaching and the touring type of thing. Is there anything else that you got planned or?
We've got a few little things in the works.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Beauty of having Brendan come on board. I have been looking for a partner for a couple of years now to find the right person that can add some good skill sets to the business, and also just a great bloke to hang out with as well. And he ticks all those boxes. It allows us to really scale up a little bit and offer some new packages, but also allows us to offer the same level of service without me being necessarily tied to the business 7 days a week. We've got some great staff and great drivers that have worked with us for the last 12 months.
Yeah, cool.
But yeah, when you are doing all-inclusive stuff and taking people out for dinner and all that sort of thing, you need someone good on board. And Brendan definitely has more skills in the coaching and riding and guiding than I do, and more of a background in that. So he'll bring all that to the equation as well. Got a few little spicy things in the works that we're hoping will be online.
Yeah.
Maybe this year, if not next year.
Yeah, okay.
And also looking to add some destinations.
Yeah.
So like Derby and Maydena are our bread and butter at the moment. We do St Helens as well, if people have got the right amount of time. But you've got Wild Mercy up on the north coast. Different sort of network, quite pedally, great fun on an e-bike, great fun on a normal bike if you don't mind a pedal.
Yeah.
But more point-to-point based. So we do a drop, you ride 30 Ks, we'll meet for lunch, you ride another 10 Ks, you jump in the van, you move on to the next destination.
Yeah, sick.
All point-to-point stuff. So you get a fair bit of riding in, but it's a different sort of network.
Yeah.
Georgetown is currently under construction and pretty close, just waiting on some things to finish off there. And Georgetown, it's an hour from Derby. It's on the water, completely different network, built by the same builders. Yeah. But just bang for buck fun factor. It is unreal.
Yeah, sick.
And we haven't ridden the big hill there yet, but we ride the small hill quite a bit just as locals. And it's the same as here. It's 3 minutes up in the shuttle and it's 4 minutes down on the bike. But the big hill looks pretty epic. Yeah, and from what the trail builders are saying, like it's
going to be sick.
It's going to be good.
Yeah. It's hard to go wrong in Tassie.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, there's just so many good spots popping up around the state. So that's what we are really going to be working on over the next 12 months, is putting together these statewide packages where if you've got 6 days or 12 days, let's do a lap and let's make the most of it.
That's pretty epic.
Yeah.
How does someone kind of go about booking that and planning that with you guys? Is it a package that's already pre-planned, or shoot you some emails, or how's that going to work?
Yeah, most of it's phone conversations.
Yeah. Okay.
So we have pre-built packages on the website, and they range from 3 days up to 9 days. They're sort of a fixed itinerary suggested. If you've got this amount of time or you don't know what to do, jump on, book that. Our preference is just give us a phone call, shoot us an email, we'll call you back. I find spend 15 minutes on the phone with someone, talk about where they live, where they ride, how many riders in the group, what sort of trail they like, and then you can just tailor the package around that. So most of our stuff is custom. 90% of it's custom, actually. Very few people just book a stock standard package. And that will be, they'll say to us, look, we're mid-40s, we like the flowy stuff, give us a little bit of black tech, but don't make it too spicy. We'll have a beer of an afternoon, so we want to finish at 3 o'clock. Or we're hardcore and we want to do 60 Ks a day and give us everything you got. And we just make it work. And then go from there. And like we said before, our motto is just make it as easy as we possibly can for people and turn up and off we go. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
A lot of planning on your part, right?
It's a bit. Yeah, it is a bit. We work with some really good accommodation providers. We work with some great restaurants in all of the towns. The systems are kind of in place that it all comes together pretty quickly. Yeah, once you can talk to someone and get a good feel for what they like, that makes it really easy. And both of us have been lucky enough to ride most of the places around the country, particularly the eastern seaboard. So if you say to us, you're from the Northern Beaches and you ride in the Garrigal Gorillas and we do a lot of Northern Beaches rock, we'll go, sweet, you're going to be good on this trail, let's go here. If you say to us, we're from Southeast Queensland, I do a lot of XC stuff, well, let's take you here. which makes it a lot easier. Yeah, it's nothing worse than someone turns up and you just have got the wrong idea of what they enjoy. Yeah. And then the itinerary just sort of gets thrown out the window and you make it up on the fly. Yeah. And we can make that work as well. But it's nice to know what people ride and what they want to ride. And then you suit it around them.
Yeah. We're super lucky in Tassie that whatever it is that you want, you've got it close to hand. Yeah. For us, that's our toolbox. That's our toolbox full of tools. And our toolbox is a super premium, everything you could ever want, anything toolbox. And it's the best because it just means we can cater something to everybody. Whether that's trails, accommodation, there's some really nice kind of super baller accommodation in a lot of places in Derby and Maydena and around. We've spent the time hunting that stuff out. Yeah. There's also some really nice, cheap, cheerful, simple, nice, because there's a difference between cheap and good. Nice and cheap. There's definitely both of those. And what we really aim to do is hunt those places out, get in good with the people that run them, and then, when you're coming to stay in Tassie, you don't need to stress that you're going to end up in some dunga joint that looks really good on photos on Airbnb, but actually turns out to be a bit stale and a bit musty and a bit mouldy, but they were pretty good with the Photoshop. Yeah.
It's amazing what you can do on a computer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we're seeing the value in that now in our own work because we're here on holidays in Adelaide and we've just been through all the headache of planning an interstate mountain biking holiday. And it's a pain in the ass.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
It is.
It's really hard. And we have just, only now are we start, we're 2 days in, we're starting to settle down a bit, having done all of that. And, that we try to take that, that kind of headache out of it for a lot of people. And sort of heading back from this now, we're going to really double down on that and make sure that we're really giving people that experience that so that they don't have to have that anxiety, that and have to do all that extra planning. We'll handle that.
And the other thing is we can work around the conditions. Like, let's say you've got 4 days in Derby, but the weather turns and it just gets miserable and wet. Let's scratch Derby today. It's too wet. Let's jump in the van. Let's head over to St Helens. Because St Helens runs great in the wet. Let's do a day over there. Let's let Derby dry out for 12 hours, come back in the morning, and it will be on point. Whereas if you sort of get fixed in this idea of I've got to do a fixed itinerary, I'm doing this shuttle on this day. Let's be honest, the weather in Tassie's not the most reliable thing in the world. It's pretty damn good most of the time, but when it turns, it turns. You don't want to be forced into a position where you just got to stick to this because that's what you have to do. When it's 2 degrees on the top of the blue tier and it's sleeting rain and it's coming in horizontal, you don't really want to be up there, do you?
No.
Let's go somewhere else. Let's save that for a bluebird day and have some fun.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And what types of coaching and skills building stuff are you kind of offering from now as well?
Look, anything really that's going to move people forward. Generally, we're not shooting towards, we're not likely to see people that are down there that want to get racing faster. It's much more about those corrections of trail technique. And just that sort of stuff that you only get when you get somebody looking at you from the outside. And it's those little tweaks that make a huge difference to people's enjoyment. We had a crew down recently and, good riders, handy riders, all of them. But one of the guys, I'd sit behind him and we'd be whipping down a trail and I'm finding that he's pulling hard for all the jumps and not making them, and I'm not pulling and making them. And I just sort of pulled up beside him. I had the GoPro on because I was trying to film him so that he could see And we just looked at the GoPro in the bus on the way up, and I just said, see this bit here? Just slow that explosion down on your way up your up ramp. You're just pulling early and fast.
Yeah. You know? Missing that pop. Yeah.
Just mistiming the pop. So just slow it down, do it later. And the very first jump, same speed, over jump the thing and never cased another jump for the next 3 days of the trip. Yeah. He's like, that's changed my life. And that's money in the bank to me. I flipping love that when people have that moment, you know. And it's those sorts of things, you know, rather than running like if people come down and they say, hey, we want to do a skills drills type session, we'll put it together. Yeah. That's no problems. We'll do a day like that. But generally it's that kind of on the trail, hey, let's tweak this a little bit. Yeah. Let's tweak that a little bit. Yeah. And you just find their riding just goes boom, 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 boom. They just get more, they get faster, they get more confident. They enjoy the place more. They've got something to take away that they can keep forever. Yeah, true. And it's the best souvenir that you can take away from Derby or you know, from Tassie is a skill that you can keep and work on and build on forever. Yeah. And so if we can give that to people, man, that's just it's so good for us. We love it.
I find like that's what Tassie and riding trips is really good for as well, because you go there and you kind of have to ride everything. Like you just spend all this money, and you know, like we rode Maydena the first time I went down there. It rained every day, like 20 mils. It sucked, but we just had to ride. Yeah, because we just spent $2,000 to get down there. Yeah. And now we can all ride mud real well because, you know, a few thousand meters of descending in mud every day gets you real good.
Tassie's just such a good place to learn because there's so much diversity and our runs are long. The trails are pretty big. It's just such a good place to come down and just work on your progression. And it happens all the time. Maydena is a classic example for it, where you take someone to Maydena for a couple of days and they go home and they'll ride whatever network they ride at home, and you get an Instagram message from them 72 hours later. It's like, I just rode this feature on this trail that I've never had the balls to do. Yeah. But now they've spent 2 days at Maydena, they go home and everything feels small. Yeah. So all of a sudden they're just punching out the features they've been scared to do for the last 3 years. And that's just that crossover and that progression that just takes them to the next level.
Yeah. Every time I come back to Adelaide, I want to get an XC bike. It feels flat. It feels weird. Yeah. I can't state that enough, like how steep it is over there. It's sick. Yeah.
It forces you out of your comfort zone. And every time you leave that place, you are a better rider.
If you're not in the back of an amber somewhere.
Calling yourself out of blackberries.
Yeah. Oh. But it's actually pretty safe. I can't say that I've known anyone to really axe themselves in Tassie.
It's really safe. Well, there's a lot of trees that catch it. We come off at Maydena all the time. We slip out in the mud. You grab a tree, you get back on, you go. And Maydena in the mud is just good fun.
Oh, it's the best.
You are slipping and sliding, and one of my favourites at Maydena is Beef Chief in the wet. Beef Chief is a really simple blue trail. You throw 30 mil of rain on it, and it escalates up, and it gets proper slippery. And you're just hanging on.
I remember I had a hugie on there, and I was like, I'm dead. Like, I'm going over the bars, but it's so steep and so loamy. You just roll down the hill and you're like, oh, sick. Let's go back up and ride it again.
That's it.
You're not hitting that flat ground like you would here, or blackberry bushes.
Yeah, slide down the hill.
Oh, I think because they're so professionally built. Certainly, listening to interviews with Glenn Jacobs from World Trail, he says one of the big things about trail building is you need to make them predictable. Yeah. Yeah. And when you drop into a Derby trail or a Maydena trail, you know that when you've hit those first couple of features, that's what you can expect for the rest of the way down. There's nothing really that's just going to jump out and bite you and catch you out. You know, and they're generally pretty safe. Yeah. And because of that predictability. And that just speaks to really good professional trail building. You may not get that in a trail that's, you know, been hand cut by a couple of local mountain bike and dirt bags who mean really well.
Yeah.
And probably build excellent trail. They are excellent, but they're not going to have that finesse and that predictability and a few of those other things that professional trail builders can really hone in on.
It's like when you hit the local and it builds, like the first few jumps are nothing and then it builds up to the end. And then the next one you go and hit, is it colorblind? The one with that double.
Yeah.
And the first feature of that's like the mid feature of the local. Yeah. And then it builds up to something stupid. And then you hit the pro jumps at the bottom. Like, you can just progress throughout the day. Yeah. And get so good.
100%.
We need more of that building here in Adelaide. Like, it's quite small. Everything here is a little bit small, in my opinion.
Yeah. And the lovely thing about Maydena, like, they do have that beauty of they haven't had to tick council boxes.
True.
And they haven't had to go meet this percentage of blue trail and green trail. They've just gone and been able to build what they want to build.
Yeah.
And they're great mountain bikers and they love great trails.
That shows.
The beauty of it. Like, it's, you look at that Abbott's Road, like everything that drops off Abbott's Road is just wicked good fun. And it's the bottom third of the hill.
Yeah. I love that. Now
It's
they do that
fantastic.
third, that lower line drop off.
Yeah, in the buggy.
And you just go and punch out lower lines.
Yeah.
It's so sick.
So much fun.
Yeah. Like, instead of doing 5, you do like 2 top to bottoms.
Yeah.
And then go punch 7 or lower runs out. And it's the best. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so good.
Sweet. Might start wrapping things up a little bit here. Got the 3 questions I always like to ask at the end. They seem to be the hardest. What advice would you... We'll go one by one. What advice would you give to someone that wants to start their own business or jump out on their own and leave their so-called dream job and get their actual dream job?
Oh, start their own business. I mean, the typical answer is just be prepared to work a shitload of hours and not earn much money for a couple of years. And that's kind of the stock standard answer that everyone gives us both. And it's true. Like, we didn't make a cent for the first 12 months. We didn't make much more the second year. You've really got to invest in a long-term plan. Like, it's the only way to do it. You've got to accept the fact that you will not make any money for the first couple of years. Everything goes back into the business.
Yeah.
But like, the thing I really learned from it was we rolled a dice, and I was pretty lucky that I left the job I was probably going to leave anyway. So I wasn't really losing something there. There was the opportunity cost of losing a few years' salary, obviously, which, you know, you got to wear that on the chin. But all these people that say don't turn your passion into a job, just ignore them.
Yeah.
Like, when you're hanging out with mountain bikers all day, every day that are just stoked on riding,
it's pretty sick.
It's just infectious. So if you're passionate about something, find a way to make it work and just stick it out. And the beauty of the mountain biking industry, like, it's exploding and there are so many different avenues to make money in mountain biking these days, whether it's being a wicker mechanic in a shop, doing suspension churning, driving buses, wrenching in a hire shop, whatever the case may be. There are so many avenues to make money in this business, which I don't think that was available 20 years ago.
No.
So mountain biking has never been seen as a sport that you can make a good living out of. That's changing because there are so many different ways to do it. So yeah, if you're passionate about it, roll the dice, have a go, and just stick it out. Yeah, 100%. Because it's hard.
Yeah, it is. It's fucking hard. That's all I hear from like self-employed dudes. It's fucking hard.
When it's 11 p.m. at night and you're punching invoices into zero because that's the only chance you've got to do it because the kids are in bed and you just want to go to bed. They're the hard days. Yeah. But when you get up and it's a bluebird morning on the tier and riders are stoked to be dropping into a 13K flowy descent. Yeah, you forget about it pretty quick. Yeah, you do. Yeah. And how about you, Brendan?
Yeah, definitely. Making a plan for yourself, committing to it, and a bit like Mark said, with he threw himself into it. If we use a mountain bike analogy, if you got to jump, you got to carry the speed into the jump. Yeah, you got to commit to that jump. If you half commit to it, you're casing out. Yeah, you're going nose heavy into the down ramp, and you're going to eat it. But throw a bit of commitment at it. And throw the time, throw the effort, staff the brakes, and just give it. Yeah. get after it.
Yeah.
And do it. And that's, something that I guess it's either going to see you succeed spectacularly or fail spectacularly.
Yeah.
And as long as you've sort of kept yourself in a bit of insurance and, put your helmet on and knee pads and things.
Yeah.
You can't get yourself into too the very worst you do is go broke.
Yeah.
Cost yourself a year, cost yourself 2 years. Go broke, go back to your old job and end up exactly where you were, where you started.
Yeah.
So what you lost, you're still back wrenching in a shop or working a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
Just do it.
The worst is you end up in the same spot you started in. Yeah.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Unless you royally fuck up. That rarely happens.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have changed or regretted in what you've kind of set up at the moment?
Ooh. No.
Yeah.
No, there isn't. There's been learning curves.
Yeah,
there's definitely been learning curves, but no, like we did a few things outside the box when we started. We were the only one. We were the first ones to do packages of our style.
Yeah.
And at the time I said Derby was, pretty slow and that's where we started. And I certainly didn't see it getting as big as what it did.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be a full-time gig for me, to be honest. I thought I'd have to supplement the income somewhere along the line.
Yeah.
And we do different sort of tours as well in winter and do some other stuff to keep money tickling in. But
I heard you do like wine tours and stuff like that.
Yeah, I do food and wine tours as well.
Yeah,
mostly just because I like wine and I get cheap wine because of it. But it's just great to have contacts in the industry. Like, you get a bunch of guys down on their 50th that want half a day off the bike. You can shoot out to some wineries that are 45 minutes away, and because know the people in the industry and you've got those contacts, so you have that ability. But no regrets.
Yeah.
It's been bloody good fun, actually.
And yourself, Brendan? Anything you'd change or do differently? Or
Look, I definitely have chased more coaching in my own riding much earlier on because I've spent a lot of time ironing out the problems that I now have. And that's kind of come, through moving through this idea of starting to coach and things. So I'd chase that, and I guess asking more questions all the time.
Yeah, can never ask enough.
So just keep asking questions. Stay curious.
100%. Yeah, I wish I got coaching earlier or got coaching full stop. Yeah, you can set up your suspension as good as you want, but if you don't know how to ride your bike properly, it makes no difference. Yeah, it's so crazy.
And it just was unheard of when we were growing up, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Like mountain biking coaching was not on your radar.
No.
I can ride a bike. I grew up riding bikes to school.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that.
Well, even the pros have coaches.
Exactly.
Like it makes,
Yeah.
It's that extra little nudge or little comment from someone can change everything. Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Last question. If you need a bit of motivation or lacking the motivation to get out of bed and do something, is there any music you like to listen to, or what kind of gets you motivated in the morning to get up and get going?
Coffee.
Coffee's a definite, but in terms of music, we're both kind of joined through a mutual love of like 90s skater punk, early 2000s skater punk.
We are.
Well, and I've always listened to sort of a lot of older music, like a lot of old blues music.
Cool.
And even new, like real gritty blues music. I love listening to that when I'm knocking around on trails. But Mark started to get me into, so he's brought me into the more modern era. He's got a few years on me, but not many, but a couple. But he's got me into Rufus Du Sol and that sort of music lately. I'm like starting to really dig it. It's super, super cool.
Yeah, sick. And how about you, Mark?
Yeah, I like a bit of everything. Hey, like if I'm in the van, I'm going for a ride. It'll be a bit of old punk. Like a bit of NoFX, AFI or something like that. Yeah. 90s stuff growing up. Remember the high school years. But Rufus is a classic one. Stick on the Joshua Tree album. And that gets me excited.
Yeah, right.
But everything. Yeah.
Yeah, sick. Easy, guys. Well, yeah, thanks so much for agreeing to come on, and thanks for your support over the last, was it 6 to 10 months or something that we've been working together. It's been great.
Oh, it's been a pleasure, mate. We love what you do. We drive vans a lot, so it's always good to have some wicked podcasts to listen to.
I just hope I don't put someone to sleep while they're driving one day. That's my greatest worry, eh?
Nah, it's great, mate. We love hearing, you're giving people a voice, you get people out there, you got super interesting stories from, you're uncovering these people that are relatively quiet in the industry. And,
that's what I'm trying to do. Yeah.
And, all of a sudden someone like, Nigel Reeve or Mick Williams, these people that are relatively quiet, particularly Nigel, that boy's got some stories to tell. For sure.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
I need to do like an R18 version. With
Yeah.
Get the real stories out.
Yeah. And he's not going to put those stories out there of his own volition.
No.
You've got to just tickle them out of him, and you're doing that
Thank you.
to the Australian mountain bike industry, and it is just a better place for it. So thank you.
We're trying.
You're doing
Good to know.
things, doing
That's
good
wicked,
things.
And thanks for showing us around Fox today.
That's all right.
It's been bloody fun.
Yeah. Good times.
So-
all right. Easy. Well, let's go get a beer.
Sounds good.
real
Let's do
good.
it.
Thank you. There we go, guys. I hope you enjoyed that episode. It's pretty rad listening to Mark and Brendan's stories and how they kind of got this company off the ground. So if you want to go and check those guys out, make sure you check out the website, send them an email and get your own tailored experience in Tasmania. It sounds like an absolute riot, and I can't wait to get down there soon. As per usual, make sure you share this episode around. If you want to, jump over to beyondthetape.com.au and grab some merch. And if you want to support the podcast in a way that costs you absolutely nothing, share it around with your nana, your dog, your rabbit, your turtle, moose, whatever. Share the podcast around, costs nothing. Share it on Instagram, share it in person, blare it from your speakers. Either way, any support is greatly appreciated. And can't wait to talk to you on the next episode.